Conclusion. The cornerstone of this book is the case for monism. I have made my arguments on rational and empirical grounds. I began by overturning two widely held paradigms, religious dogmatism and material minimalism, that are hurdles to the view I propose. I essentially rebooted the mind, minus the typical conditioning that is put in place in the West through religious and secular education. I sought to understand the universe afresh with a philosophical blank slate. I backed up my insights with carefully articulated logic. The central pillar supporting everything else was an appreciation of the fundamental reality of the infinite, the immeasurable, the formless, call it what you will, a level of reality that is undoubtedly real but ungraspable from the perspective of a creature. The infinite is what we encounter when we probe such avenues as the underlying essence of matter and consciousness. At the root of all our finite measurements and categorizations is an ungraspable infinity, an unbound singularity from which a universe of apparent multiplicity springs. I have been careful to avoid presenting monism as a form of salvation, a new gospel, like so many spiritual teachers. While it is certainly true that there is no essential need to embrace this worldview, it must be understood that one's personal philosophy, whatever it may be, determines his whole outlook on life, including his psychological health, ethical values, and experiential goals. Consider these words from a stranger who wrote to me online, having watched some of my video lectures. Quote, I wanted to say that I agree there's no duality, that duality is about living in the now. But life is nothing but suffering and will always be suffering. I can't enjoy my now with suffering going on all around me. I'm not going to stay and watch other human beings hurt each other, and that's why I will be committing suicide soon. Sorry to be defeatist. There will be a time in the future in which human beings will live in harmony, and if I am given the opportunity to come back from the formlessness, and I believe I can, reincarnation is our existence, I will. See you on the other side. End quote. If you think beliefs don't matter, think again. Here's a person whose beliefs are driving him to take his own life. I don't wish to be cruel to someone who is clearly suffering, but it needs to be said. He thinks the problem is in the world around him, but the real source of the problem is in his head. His understanding of life is unrealistic, and so he makes an unrealistic demand of life, the expectation that there ought to be harmony. And when that demand isn't met, he wants to escape. His belief in reincarnation makes the suicide more palatable, because he thinks he can come back later, when conditions are more to his liking, a bit like taking a nap until the storm blows over. If this person saw life a little more clearly, he would notice that there is never harmony between the lion and the gazelle, between the immune system and the invading virus, between the planet and the asteroid that's on a collision course. So what right has a human being to a life free from suffering? None. Notice that you don't see gazelles jumping off cliffs because they're tired of being chased by predators. Why not? Because non-human animals are not tortured by the twists and turns of human philosophy. Furthermore, even though this person denies believing in duality, he still thinks of his identity as a self separate from the universe, a soul that can exit from life and return later. But if life is non-dual, there can be no exit, ever. You can't truly commit suicide, because you're alive in all the other suffering creatures. All life is the universal self in manifold guises. Do you see how erroneous beliefs, even seemingly harmless spiritual ones, can be utterly pernicious? Sometimes what you believe really is a matter of life and death. Adhering to wrong beliefs never led me to such extremes, but I can speak from the personal experience of having been a Christian whose life was crippled by unnatural, life-denying rules. I was also an atheist whose happiness was poisoned by nihilism. What, then, does monism do for my outlook on life? Non-dual awareness is not some sort of cosmic consciousness that is off-limits to all but the spiritual elite among us. It is the awareness you possess right now, except that it recognizes the world of the senses and the mind as a veneer over a more fundamental reality. Beneath the surface of appearances, the whole universe is a formless, incomprehensible unity where nothing is separate from anything, including your identity from the whole. In other words, you are it. Consider the far-reaching implications of monism in relation to the space-time experience of apparent separateness in which we all participate. 1. There has never been, nor will there ever be, anything other than you. 2. There has never been, nor will there ever be, any other moment but now. 3. You exist, now, in an eternal flow of change. These three principles will seem utterly alien to anyone who has not properly grasped monism. But when they sink in at a deep level, the practical outworking in one's life is profound. Again, I speak from personal experience. There is no room for nihilism because you are eternal. There is no place for greed because the inevitability of change means that no accumulation of wealth or power can ever truly last. There is no need for a reliance on spiritual pipe dreams concerning the soul and the afterlife because you have already arrived at the center of eternity, now. In grasping this, you are seeing the truth behind the ideas that religions have been intuitively approximating through the ages. Your grip on the importance of your ego is loosened, removing much of the terror from the anticipation of death and allowing you to take life a lot less seriously, because you understand that your individual consciousness is only a finite manifestation of the real you. You grow older without the sense of urgency that your time is running out, because all life is you in other guises. Where once you experienced restless cravings, now you experience playful desires, because no matter what you strive to achieve or obtain with your time, the destination is always the same as the origin, now. You learn to relax into the now at all times, since it's the only moment you know. And your capacity for love is deepened through your awareness that you are metaphysically inseparable from everyone and everything. Consider these attitudes. As long as I'm all right, I don't care about anyone else. It's not my problem if I overhear my neighbour beating his wife senseless. The world's oil reserves might be running out, but I'm happy as long as there's enough to last the rest of my lifetime. Why should it matter to me that I'm polluting the planet? The next generation can deal with it. I'll be dead and gone long before any of that affects me. These stances are the logical result of dualistic thinking, where the self is viewed as something alienated from what it perceives as other than self. Such attitudes are impossible to hold when non-dual awareness develops, because the sense of separation is replaced by a sense of unity. This example gives a taste of how monism, if understood en masse, could dramatically impact the world for the better. If there is any enlightenment to be obtained in life, it is only in the sense of an improvement to the quality of consciousness. Historically, we might say that Christian spirituality was an improvement over Roman materialism. We might also say that scientific reasoning is an improvement over Christian authoritarianism. The non-dual perspective that I defend here is an improvement over the mind-body dualism common among theists and atheists today. Existence remains impenetrably mysterious, but for those willing to do the hard work of deconditioning and re-educating themselves, life becomes a delicious mystery that is stripped bare of misdirection, and we find ourselves freed from the psychological problems spawned from our erroneous beliefs. As a result of my own journey, I am imbued with a sense of awe and wonder about life, the likes of which I haven't experienced since childhood. Life is a dance of energy. The dance feels brief and insignificant when the ego misidentifies itself as a separate entity from the whole. But in reality, every manifestation of that dance across the entire universe for the duration of an unending present moment is you. When a human being truly comes to recognize himself as the universe peering out through a pair of eyes, the most natural reaction is laughter. And when the laughter subsides, a light-hearted, playful spirit born of an enriched awareness remains. Acknowledgements. Learning requires not just thinking your own thoughts, but carefully examining the musings of others too. The more you read, the more you know. And there is never enough time to read everything. Nevertheless, out of the many books that I have consumed in life thus far, I would like to shine a light on a few authors who were particularly influential in helping me synthesize my own worldview. The first is David Icke. I don't subscribe to his theories about a global conspiracy, or shape-shifting reptilian entities that look human, or the moon being an artificial construction projecting a fake reality to the earth. I think Icke, as a researcher, has made countless wrong turns, relying on channeled information from alleged psychics, running on pure intuition with little rational support, placing confidence in unverifiable testimonies, trafficking in rumour, and wallowing in unrealistic levels of paranoia. You might wonder what I could possibly gain from the writings of a man with so flimsy a grasp of epistemology. Two things. Icke, for all his flaws, was the first example I came across of what might be called spirituality with balls. Through my Christian conditioning, I had equated spirituality with the virtues of humility and obedience. Through Icke, I quickly learned that rebellion was not something unspiritual or unethical. In fact, it was necessary, as my own sheep-like spirituality was not working as a positive force in my life. Icke, who went through a period of massive public ridicule in the early 1990s for making some outlandish claims on public TV, picked himself up, weathered the storm, and ended up becoming a more empowered person because of it. Regardless of what I can't accept about Icke's views, I never fail to be inspired when he talks about being yourself, not caring about what anyone thinks of you, refusing to conform to what you know is wrong. He is a man talking from hard-earned experience. The second thing I gained was my first inkling of monism. His metaphysics was streets ahead of Christian monotheism, which was all I knew at the time. In reading his books, I was seeing the vague shape of where the truth lay. Nowadays, my own philosophy differs substantially from Icke's, but I have to give him credit as the man who helped me hit the ground running at a time in my life when I was very confused. The book that started it all for me was I Am Me, I Am Free, 1996. The next major influence on my life was Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan and author of The Satanic Bible, 1969. Ironically, one of the reasons I began studying Satanism was to see whether Icke's claims about a satanic conspiracy had any merit. They didn't. I never expected to discover a philosophy that resonated with me. LaVey was a visionary for his time, seeing human nature with a great deal of clarity and packaging his insights in the form of an outrageous myth that ensured his popularity long after his death. LaVey, for me, was a grounding force that kept me mindful of the harsher realities of physical existence, since so much of my studying consisted of metaphysics books. Without LaVey, I might not have clearly seen the errors that many spiritual teachers fall prey to, those that talk about removing low vibrational energy, whatever that is, and expressing universal love. LaVey was all about seeing the world as it is, not indulging in wishful thinking. I didn't agree with his philosophy in its entirety. It was better suited to dualism than to monism, which explains its continuing popularity with atheists. But what I gained from studying Satanism, I would have been hard-pressed to find elsewhere. Someone who took LaVey's philosophy and attempted to develop it into something better is Jason King, author of Postmodern Satanism, 2009. King, like myself, is a monist, and his book was invaluable in helping me to integrate non-dual awareness with a sense of realism about the predicament of creaturely existence. I don't think King and I join all the dots in exactly the same places, but his influence permeates my book. Postmodern Satanism provided a much-needed balance against the unrealistic love and light spirituality expressed by many teachers of non-duality. Stephen Hawking's popular physics book, A Brief History of Time, 1988, while difficult to read, proved to be a delightful antidote to years of ill-informed Christian propaganda about cosmology. Through this work, I started to see how science could be successfully integrated with a rigorously thought-out monism, and could even enhance that metaphysical perspective in unexpected ways. Lastly, I was delighted to discover Alan Watts, author of The Book on the Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are, 1966, and many other works. Watts took my appreciation of monism to even deeper levels, with his ability to communicate the insights of Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism, in a language and structure suitable to our preconditioned Western brains. When I am asked to summarize my personal philosophy, I sometimes say, it's what you would get if Buddha and Satan sat down and worked out their differences. I could talk about many more invaluable minds, but those are the big ones that triggered significant changes in my thinking. No doubt there are further treasures to discover as I continue to joyfully explore the many avenues of human knowledge. I, Universe was written from 2009 to 2018. During its development, many of my online followers offered helpful criticisms and corrections. My thanks to all of you. It's a better book because of your input. Thanks also to the folks at Skylight Press for taking a chance on my labour of love. Suggested reading. The following list by no means constitutes a complete program of study. It is only an inventory of what I consider to be the most important books from the many titles I have read in recent years. I do not endorse every claim made by every author. Often it's important to get both sides of a story and to formulate your own personal synthesis from opposing viewpoints. The following titles simply contain useful information over a wide variety of fields. It is up to the individual reader to assert his own critical thinking. Michael A. Aquino, Black Magic, 1975. John D. Barrow, Impossibility, The Limits of Science and the Science of Limits, 1998. Howard Bloom, The Lucifer Principle, A Scientific Expedition into the Forces of History, 1995. Darren Brown, Tricks of the Mind, 2006. Joseph Campbell, Myths to Live By, 1972. The Power of Myth, 1988. Peter J. Carroll, Liber Null, 1978. Psychonaut, 1982. Richard Cavendish, The Black Arts, A Concise History of Witchcraft, Demonology, Astrology, and Other Mystical Practices Throughout the Ages, 1967. Sean Connolly, The Scion's Handbook, 2004. Brian Cox and Jeff Forshaw, The Quantum Universe, Everything That Can Happen, Does Happen, 2011. Richard Dawkins, The Blind Watchmaker, 1986. James Fallon, The Psychopath Inside, a neuroscientist's personal journey into the dark side of the brain, 2013. Charles Fort, The Book of the Damned, 1919. Tim Freke, The Mystery Experience, a revolutionary approach to spiritual awakening, 2012. Robert Greene, The 48 Laws of Power, 1998. Dan Harris, 10% Happier, How I Tamed the Voice in My Head, Reduced Stress Without Losing My Edge, and Found Self-Help That Actually Works, 2014. Sam Harris, The Moral Landscape, How Science Can Determine Human Values, 2010. Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion, 2014. Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time, 1988. The Grand Design, 2010, with Leonard Mlodinov. Phil Hine, Condensed Chaos, An Introduction to Chaos Magic, 1995. Aldous Huxley, The Doors of Perception, 1954. Heaven and Hell, 1956. Brave New World Revisited, 1958. David Icke, I Am Me, I Am Free, The Robot's Guide to Freedom, 1996. Jason King, Postmodern Satanism, 2009. Paul McKenna, The Hypnotic World of Paul McKenna, 1994. Anton Szandor LaVey, The Satanic Bible, 1969. The Satanic Witch, 1971, originally published as The Complete Witch. Elaine Pagels, The Origin of Satan, How Christians Demonized Jews, Pagans, and Heretics, 1995. Dean Radin, The Conscious Universe, The Scientific Truth of Psychic Phenomena, 1997, published in the UK as The Noetic Universe. Entangled Minds, Extrasensory Experiences in a Quantum Reality, 2006. Supernormal, Science, Yoga, and the Evidence for Extraordinary Psychic Abilities, 2013. Wilhelm Reich, Listen, Little Man, 1948. Bertrand Russell, A History of Western Philosophy, 1945. Carl Sagan, The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark, 1995. Christopher Ryan and Casilda Jetha, Sex at Dawn, The Prehistoric Origins of Modern Sexuality, 2010. David Self, The Lion Encyclopedia of World Religions, 2008. Upton Sinclair, Mental Radio, 1930. Brad Warner, Hardcore Zen, Punk Rock, Monster Movies, and the Truth About Reality, 2003. Sit Down and Shut Up, Punk Rock Commentaries on Buddha, God, Truth, Sex, Death, and Dogen's Treasury of the Right Dharma Eye, 2007. Alan Watts, The Book on the Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are, 1966. The Philosophies of Asia, 1995. Colin Wilson, A Criminal History of Mankind, 1984.